What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Stark, back in the movie guy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today we're going to talk about something very bad is going to happen. Season 1, Episode 5, where nothing happens. But something very bad is going to happen, just not in this episode. Uh, if you're if you have friends and family who are afraid of scares or gore or violence, this would be the episode to bring everybody back in. Let's rope them all in and say, hey guys, hey fam, let's watch this episode together. Nothing happens in this episode. This episode is almost entirely Rachel's Rachel struggling with the idea, the concept of soulmate, right? So she's just been delivered the news about what'll happen if she doesn't marry her actual literal soulmate. And she's trying to convince herself that Nikki is her soulmate by just like force of will. And she's like, no, Nikki, I mean, the way that we met, right? It's just very serendipitous. So Nikki's brother, who was there, just the fact that the brother was there for the death of Rachel's mother would be enough to make me, that would give me pause. I'd be like, this is a weird full circle moment for me that makes me very uncomfortable, and I'm gonna leave now. So, like, the series for me would have ended on episode 4, and I would have been like, this is not something that I can deal with. This makes no sense to me. So, we're leaving now. I mean, her. So, like, the whole time, there's nothing to talk about in this episode. We'll get to it. Don't worry about it. So, like, the whole time Rachel was growing up as a child, right? So he was too. What's his name? Jonah or something like that. Um, and Jude's the kid. I think Jonah's the father. I don't know. Jules, I think is his name. Uh, so he's growing up and he creates this like monster thing, right? This idea of this creepy villain character that comes around and guts people, and then like his family starts telling the story of it as if it's like their own little urban legend. And but it was all this thing that really happened. It was inspired by, and then so Nicky is just living his own life in his house with his family, right? Goes out into the real world, bounces around for a little bit, runs into Rachel. They fall in love. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna get married," and they come back around. The small infinitesimal chance of that happening, of Rachel being brought back to the very place where she was born by accident is just, I would be gone. The show would have ended at episode 4. So the fact that Rachel's just like, ah, yeah, Nikki's my soulmate, it's like, are you really sure? Because it's kind of weird that you're back here. It's a little fucking weird. So she spends the whole episode telling the same story over and over to like different groups of people who are at this reception, and of how her and Nikki met. And meanwhile, Jules is trying to like disprove this theory that they're soulmates. So he's listening to the story and trying to parse out the little things that don't make any sense. Rachel's story remains super consistent though. She's like, I was supposed to fly back and I was sitting there and I was worried they were calling my name, and I had this feeling. I was like, oh my God, the plane's gonna crash. I can't get in. And then this cute guy came over and talked to me, and I was like, I can't do it. And then he's like, okay, fuck it, let's drive. And eventually Jules figures out what's wrong with the story. Is he's like, so, because he's like, didn't Nikki have a girlfriend around this time? So he puts the dates together and he realizes that basically Nikki's girlfriend had just broken up with him, and Nikki was supposed to be flying back for Jules's wedding at this point, which he did not. And he had just been dumped by his girlfriend. He was not going to be on Rachel's flight. Rachel's whole premonition about there being the flight was going to crash didn't ever actually happen. So this whole idea that she's living on a wing and a prayer that Nikki's her soulmate, maybe not is not that true. And the other thing was, yeah, Nikki was not even supposed to be on that plane. He catches that he's like, well, you said that they were calling your name over the loudspeaker. Why wouldn't they be calling Nikki's name? If it was just the two of you left, why wouldn't they be calling Nikki's name as well? And Nikki's like, stop it, stop. And then it's like, it's the one thing like Rachel like never questioned or thought about in her own story. It's like, yeah, why weren't they calling your name? Um, and that's basically the entire episode. That is what we're trying to learn the whole time. That is, yeah, the other family members kind of bouncing and around, and we see them a little bit, and they're still present. I would say the second biggest thing that happens is that Nikki's parents have like a moment. Dad makes a toast, sort of a celebration about the mother and about how they met, and why he considers her soulmate. And his their meeting was a little bit more happenstance. He was a doctor and he had left the hospital, but then had to come back in for something. And then as he's coming back in, he hears like a woman screaming at him, and it's his future wife, Jennifer Jason Leigh's character, and she's basically like cut her finger off, and she's like holding it with like this bloody rag over it, and she's screaming at him to try to fix it to put it back on. So he takes her into a room and fixes it and glues it, and she jokes, she's like, I to this day I still can't feel anything in the tip of my finger. And he explains, he's like, I was a doctor, but I'm not an ER doctor. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that I don't have to do on a regular basis. But he still helped her out and reattached the finger. Um, and then I don't know, magic happened. Love was in the air, and they got together and married. So that's really the only other thing that happens in this episode. Otherwise, it's just Rachel telling the same story like 5 times, with the Jules being like trying to like intervene, and he keeps bugging Rachel. He's like, "Are you sure about the soulmate thing?" Because I love. There's one part where he's talking to her about like, "So how sure are you?" And she's like, "I don't know, 93%." And so he's like, okay, so you get on an airplane, and the pilot goes, good morning. Just to let you know, we have a 93% chance of landing safely today. Do you stay on that plane? It's like, I mean, that is kind of like, that's a 7% chance. That is kind of a higher than I would be comfortable with chance of a plane crash at that point. Um, so a lot of planes are having to crash, because with the amount of them that are flying at that point, that would be a pretty high percentage for plane crashes. It's like 7 out of 100 planes crash it's not a great ratio for the people who are on those 7 planes. You feel lucky, punk? Do you? um, no, I don't. The audio description was fine. There was nothing really to audio describe here. I didn't catch anything that was like, oh wow, thank you so much for that wonderful moment of description. Yeah, I was bored by this episode. It didn't really do much to further it. It just kind of reinforced the idea that probably Rachel should have run, but we already did that. She should have run the last episode. When she should have. Rachel needed like a moment where she like everything was coming together in the last episode, and then she was just like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm here and all of this is here, and this guy that I'm talking to was at like my parents' wedding, and what is happening in my life? Run. Like just run. Um no, instead she's back. So anyway, this series trended down with this episode anyway, that's for sure. So we're in the. I had been floating around like an 8. I would say maybe we're floating around like a 7.5 uh, in terms of score. I would still go fresh with this because, man, those first two episodes are killer. And I'm kind of hoping that we'll turn it back around and this is just like a mid-season lull. But I'll be back with episode 6. So see you guys on the other side.